So, good morning and welcome everyone. Glad that you're all here. Today, we are going to continue looking at the Zen Buddhist teachings from Master Su Yun, continuing off where we finished yesterday morning. And let's start with a few sounds of the bell to invite us to our breathing and our mindfulness. Get settled and comfortable in the present moment, and then we will continue with the reading. Make sure you're comfortable in your meditation position, and as we hear the sound of the bell, we can listen to the sound as if it is the voice of the Buddha, voice of our peace, our freedom, our healing. Okay, so we're going to continue where we left off yesterday in reading. Our sect advocates the Chan training. This training centers on realization of mind and perception of self nature. That is an exhaustive investigation into one's fundamental face. The Dharma door, which consists in the clear awakening to the self mind and through perception of the fundamental nature, has been handed down ever since the Buddha held up a flower until after Bodhidharma's coming to the East, with frequent changes in the method of practice. Up to the Tang and Sung dynasties, most adherents of the Chan sect became enlightened after hearing a word or sentence. This transmission from master to disciple did not exceed the ceiling of mind by mind, and there was no fixed Dharma taught. In their questions and answers, the role played by a master was only to untie the bonds fettering his disciple, according to available circumstances, just like the giving of an appropriate medicine for each particular ailment. Okay, so this Dharma door, this way of stepping into realization of the truth or the teachings, uh, which consists of clear awakening to the self mind and through perception of the fundamental nature, has been handed down ever since the Buddha held up a flower until after Bodhidharma's coming to the East. So, this is talking about the history of the Chan tradition, the history of the Zen tradition, um, with frequent changes in the method of practice. So, at the beginning, most of the people following in this tradition um, had an enlightenment or had an experience of insight after just a word or a phrase. The master would give a word or a phrase and untie the bonds, freeing freeing their disciples from the restraint caused by delusion. So the attachment to delusional thinking, according to the circumstance, just like the giving of an appropriate medicine for each particular ailment. So, an immediate, spontaneous response to the disciples' question or state of mind that would liberate them, free them in that instant from their delusory perceptions. In their questions and answers, the role played by a master was only to untie the bonds according to available circumstances, just like the giving of an appropriate medicine for each particular ailment. In and after the Sung dynasty, human potentialities became duller, and the instructions given by the masters were not carried out by their disciples. For instance, when they were taught to lay down everything and not to think of either good or evil, practitioners could not lay down anything and could not stop thinking of either good or evil. Under these circumstances, the ancestors and masters were compelled to devise a poison against poison method by teaching their followers to inquire into a koan or look into a huato. A koan is something like a thought puzzle that is unsolvable by the conceptual mind, okay, the self-fixated mind. Example of a koan would be a student asked Master Yunmen, not even a single thought has arisen. Is there still a sin or not? Is there still an error or not? The master replied, Mount Sumeru. Why did the master reply Mount Sumeru? And this is something that's quite well known in the Zen tradition. People always thinking about the koans, these thought puzzles. But the huatou is something that's not so much as a puzzle as um, the head of a thought or a questioning. So, what is you would ask a question such as, "What is my original face before my parents were born? What is this?" And we've talked about the huatou um, before here. Their disciples were even taught to hold a meaningless huatou as firmly as possible in their minds, without loosening their grip even for the shortest possible moment, in the same way as a rat will stubbornly bite the board of a coffin at a fixed spot until it is made a hole. The aim of this method was to use a single thought to oppose and arrest myriad thoughts because the masters had no alternative. It was like an operation which became imperative when poison had been introduced into the body. There were many koans devised by the ancients, but later only huatous were taught, such as, who is dragging this corpse here? Right? Who is dragging here? Who is dragging around this physical body of yours? And what was my fundamental face before I was born? In the present day, the masters use the huatou, who is the repeater of the Buddha's name, right? Or who is sitting here practicing mindfulness? Who is sitting here following their breathing? Huatou literally means the head of a thought, or word head, thought head. So it's emphasizing the space that is there before the question is asked, before the thought arises. And to practice the huatou, such as, and what has to, a lot to do here is the sincerity. So it's not a method of kind of thinking, but it's a sincere opening up to this questioning, this curious quality in the mind. The mind before it is stirred by thought, by a thought. So to start connecting with that mind before it is stirred by a thought. It is the mind in its undisturbed condition. The holding of a huato in the mind is the looking into the self-mind until its realization. It is also the turning inward of the faculty of hearing to hear the self-nature, for the disentanglement of mind from external objects, okay, such as who is dragging this corpse around? Who is here practicing meditation? Huatos such as who is dragging this corpse around? And what was my fundamental face before I was born? Or many people are involved in the Pure Land School. Many Buddhists are involved in the Pure Land School. And this is where you are using a mantra to chant um, as your way of meditation. So you will say, Namo Amitofo, 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 Amitofo. And you get very involved in chanting the Buddha's name or uh, the name of the Pure Land Buddha, Amitabha. So then that's a particular meditation method where you are reciting the Buddha's name. You are reciting that mantra. The Huato would then be, who is the repeater of the Buddha's name? Who is the one who is reciting the Buddha's name? All these Huato have only one meaning, which is very ordinary and has nothing peculiar about it if you look into it. Who is reciting a sutra? Who is holding a mantra? Who is worshipping Buddha? Who is taking a meal? Who is wearing a robe? Who is walking on the road? Or who is sleeping? The reply to who will invariably be the same. It is mind. Word arises from mind, and mind is the head of word. Thought arises from mind, and mind is the head of thought. Myriad things come from mind, and mind is the head. Mind is the head of myriad things. In reality, a huato is the head of a thought. The head of thought is nothing but mind. To make it plain, before a thought arises, it is a huato. From the above, we know that to look into a huato is to look into the mind. The fundamental face before one's birth is mind. To look into one's fundamental face before one's birth is to look into one's mind. Self-nature is mind, and to turn inwards the hearing to hear the self-nature is to turn inward one's contemplation to contemplate the self-mind. You can take a few moments to practice like this. Turn inwards the hearing to hear the self-nature. Turn inwards one contemplation to contemplate the self-mind. offer a sound of a bell. The sentence, the perfect shining on the pure awareness, means this. The pure awareness is mind, and to shine on is to look into. Mind is Buddha, and to repeat the Buddha's name is to contemplate the Buddha. To contemplate Buddha is to contemplate mind. Therefore, to look into a Huatou is to look into them who repeat the Buddha's name, is to contemplate the mind, or to contemplate the pure essence of awareness of the self-mind, or to contemplate the self-natured Buddha. Mind is self-nature, is awareness, and is Buddha, having neither form nor location, and being undiscoverable. It is clean and pure by nature, penetrates everywhere in the Dharmadhatu, does not enter or leave, neither comes nor goes, and is fundamentally the self-evident pure Dharmakaya Buddha. A practitioner should keep under control all her 6 sense organs and take good care of her Huatou by looking into where a thought usually arises, until she perceives her pure self-nature, free from all thoughts. This continuous, close, quiet, and indifferent investigation will lead to a still and shining contemplation, the outcome of which will be the outright non-existence of the 5 constituent elements of being. That is, the skandhas, the form, feeling, ideation, reaction, and consciousness, and the wiping out of both body and mind, without the least thing being left behind. Thereafter, this absolute immutability should be maintained in every state. Immutability is unchanging, unwavering. So thereafter, this absolute immutability should be maintained in every state, while walking, standing, sitting, and laying by day or night. As time goes on, this achievement will be brought to perfection, resulting in the perception of self-nature and the attainment of Buddhahood, with the elimination of all distress and suffering. Ancestor Cao Fang said, "When a student looks into a Huatou with the same steadiness with which a broken tile, when thrown into a deep pond, plunges straight down 10,000 changs to the bottom," changs is a measure of 10 feet. "If they fail to become awakened in 7 days, anyone can chop off my head and take it away." Dear friends, these are the words of an experienced master. They are true and correspond to reality. They are not deceitful words to cheat people. So, practicing in such a way, looking into this questioning mind, this opening up to mind in such a way that a broken tile, when thrown down into a deep pond, plunges straight down until it reaches the bottom. So to practice in this sort of way. Then why in the present generation are there not even a few people who attain enlightenment, in spite of the great number who hold a Huatou in their minds? This is because their potentialities are not so sharp as those of the ancients. It is also because students are confused about the correct method of training and of holding a huatou. They go to various places in the four quarters, seeking instruction, and the result is that when they get old, they are still not clear about the meaning of a huatou and how to look into it. They pass their whole lives clinging to words and names and applying their minds to the tail of the huatou. So that is when the sentence, "Who repeats the Buddha's name?" or "Who is sitting here?" is merely repeated by a practitioner who only grasps its meaning, they are thinking of the tail of the huatou instead of its head, that is the mind. Thus they wrongly apply the mind to the tail instead of the head. So that is that from which the huatou, the questioning, is arising from, and that is the mind. It is awareness itself. So, who is sitting here, aware of this body? To apply the contemplation, the deep looking, to the mind and not the phrase. Or the meaning of the phrase. So they inquire into the sentences, look into who repeats the Buddha's name, and take care of the huatou. And the more they look and inquire into these sentences, the more they get away from what these sentences stand for. Okay? The meaning that these people fail because they set their discriminating minds on grasping the meaning of these sentences, whereas in the training, their minds should first be disentangled from all discriminations. So if we are practicing in such a way to be tangled in our discriminations, thus, how can they be awakened to the self-evident Wu Wei, that is the transcendental supreme reality, and how can they ascend the undisturbable royal throne? When gold power is thrown into their eyes, they are blinded. How can they send out the great illuminating ray? What a pity! What a pity! They are all good sons and good daughters who leave their homes in quest of the truth, and their determination is above the average. What a pity if they labor to no purpose. For this reason, an ancient master said, "It is better to remain unenlightened for 1,000 years than to tread the wrong path for a day." So that is, do not rely on the discriminating mind. Mind of picking and choosing. That is to rely on no mind. That is to be in relationship with no mind. Okay? So this practice methodology that Master Empty Cloud, Master Suyun, really emphasizes is this Huatou method. So we invite the question of who is dragging around this body? Who is dragging this corpse around? This body has more of a nature to be a corpse than it does to be living. Right? It's a little bit of a problematic thing to say, but it's also very, very true, right? Let's look at a period of 1,000 years. Well, 99% of the people who have lived in that 1,000 years are a corpse. They have realized their corpse nature. They have not realized the nature of a body that is not falling apart and dissolving, subject to sickness, old age, and death, right? So, more so, or at least as much so as we are this living, breathing person that we identify with a lot, we can do what we want, we can get what we want, etc. The senses, the eyes are wet, they're not dry, they haven't fallen out of our head. Just as much as that is the case that the body is going to dissolve is just as alive, just as real as what we are experiencing right now. You know, it's fair to say it's a lot more real than that. Where do you think Abraham Lincoln is? Oh, he's not realizing his living, breathing body, for sure. Okay, outside of we are Abraham Lincoln's continuation, of course. So, who is dragging this corpse around? So, this Huato invites us to the mind to turn our awareness back on itself to contemplate the mind. Okay, the sentence, the perfect shining on the pure awareness means this: the pure awareness is mind, and to shine on is to look into. Mind is Buddha, and to repeat the Buddha's name is to contemplate the Buddha. Okay, so more people here are going to be familiar with mindfulness of breathing, right, rather than Buddha recitation. So we can switch it. The sentence, the perfect shining on the pure awareness, means this: the pure awareness is mind, and to shine on is to look into. Mind is Buddha, and to continuously come back to mindfulness of breathing is to contemplate the Buddha. To contemplate Buddha is to contemplate mind. Therefore, to look into a Huato, or to look into that person who practices mindfulness of breathing, is to contemplate the mind, or to contemplate the pure essence of awareness of the self-mind, or to contemplate the self-natured Buddha. Mind is self-nature. Mind is awareness. Mind is Buddha. Having neither form nor location and being undiscoverable, it is clean and pure by nature, penetrates everywhere in the Dharmadhatu. Dharmadhatu is kind of a fancy Buddhist word. Just Google it for posterity's sake. Dharmadhatu, aha! The purified mind in its natural state, free of obscurations. It is the essence quality or nature of mind, okay, the fundamental ground of consciousness. Mind is self-nature. Mind is awareness, awareness in and of itself. Okay, awareness without boundaries, awareness without involvement or uninvolvement or good or bad or this or that. Mind is self-nature, is awareness, and is Buddha, having neither form nor location and being undiscoverable. So what is the form of your mind? Where is the location of your mind? Well, let's have some faith here. Mind is self-nature. Mind is awareness. Mind is Buddha, having neither form nor location and being undiscoverable. It is clean and pure by nature, penetrates everywhere in the Dharmadhatu, does not enter or leave, neither comes nor goes, and is fundamentally the self-evident pure Dharmakaya Buddha, so ultimate Buddha, Buddha of self-nature. A practitioner should keep under control all their six sense organs and take good care of their huatou by looking into where a thought usually arises, until they perceive their pure self-nature free from all thoughts. This continuous, close, quiet, and indifferent investigation will lead to a still and shining contemplation, the outcome of which will be the outright non-existence of the five constituent elements of being: form, feelings, ideation, reaction, and consciousness, and the wiping out of both body and mind, without the least thing being left behind. So this is what you can expect if you do this the right way. They're giving us a spoiler, but of course it's not the real thing. But you don't need to chase after the real thing, because mind is self-nature, is awareness, and is Buddha. It is clean and pure by nature, and it penetrates everywhere. Let's invite a sound of the bell. Self-cultivation for awakening to the truth is easy and is also difficult. For example, when we turn on the electric light, if we know how, in a finger snap, there will be light, and the darkness which has lasted for a myriad years will disappear. If one does not know how to turn on the light, the electrical wires will be interfered with and the lamp will be damaged, resulting in an increase of passions and ignorance. There are also some people who, while undergoing Chan training, Zen training, and looking into the Huatou, get entangled with demons and become insane, while others vomit blood and fall sick. So, if an evil thought is allowed to slip into the concentration of mind while holding a Huatou, this thought will replace the Huatou and may grow out of proportion and become difficult to subdue. If it be a strong desire which cannot be satisfied, the resultant frustration may cause insanity. One's breath should never be interfered with, and concentration of mind should never be on the chest, as it may affect the lungs and cause the vomiting of blood. So, it is a sensitive practice, and we need to be skillful. A good rule of thumb is um, there's no quality of involvement. Rather, it's an indifferent investigation. So we don't latch on to a particular state or kind of feeling that starts to arises, and then we're trying to fuel that or feed that because we think it's some special thing that, oh, now I'm getting it, right? I'm feeding this experience. You don't do that. You don't get involved with that. But it's more of a indifferent investigation from the premise of the self mind, the mind of Buddha, the mind of awareness itself. The mind as self nature, awareness, Buddha, having neither form nor location and being undiscoverable. So once you get stuck or locked into form or location, this is a reminder to step back, not to be trapped in that. Form or location is not to be fixated on. If you discover something, then you have discovered your ignorance. Okay, you are investigating indifferently to become aware of your self nature. Or rather, clear awakening to the self mind and through perception of the fundamental nature. So, no thing in particular. So, are the fires of ignorance bursting into flame and the deep rooted view of self and other not the obvious causes of this? So, these sufferings, these difficulties that come up in our training are the fires of ignorance bursting into flame and the deep rooted view of self and other not the obvious causes of all this. Okay, it's this view of dualism, good and bad, right and wrong, getting it and not getting it. Oh, that's it. Therefore, practitioners should harmonize body with mind and become calm, free from all impediments, and from the view of self and other so as to bring about a perfect unison with their latent potentialities. Fundamentally, this method used in Chan training is invariably the same, but the training is both difficult and easy to beginners as well as to old hands. Okay, so we're going to end our reading here and practice a little bit of meditation together, but a little bit of a hint before we do that, and we'll read this, probably continue reading this tomorrow. So, where does the difficulty lie for a beginner? Although their body and mind are mature for it, they are still confused about the method of undergoing it. And since their practice is ineffective, they will either become impatient or spend their time in dozing, with this result: a beginner's training in the first year, an old hand's training in the second, and no training in the third year. So our consistency falls apart. We lose our consistency. Where does the easiness lie for a beginner? It only requires a believing, a long enduring, and mindless mind. A believing mind is firstly belief that this mind of ours is fundamentally Buddha, not differing from all Buddhas and all living beings of the three times in the 10 directions of space. And secondly, belief that all dharmas expounded by Shakyamuni Buddha can enable us to put an end to birth and death and to attain Buddhahood. Right? A long enduring and mindless mind. By mindless is meant the laying down of everything, so that the practitioner will become like a dead person who, while following others in their normal activities, does not give rise to the least differentiation and attachment, and lives as a mindless religious person. Okay? So this believing mind, this faith. You can imagine all those people who go to the gym and they become very strong and powerful and fit, and they can run for miles and miles, etc. Imagine, to get to that place, they had to go to a journey to get to that place. Let's say someone who's coming from poor physical health before, without believing that their capacity, that their body had that capacity to realize its fit nature. That would be very, very difficult, right? They go to the gym because they have a belief, they have a faith. So too, as practitioners, we can have this faith in the Buddha nature of mind, self nature of the mind. We'll listen to 3 sounds of the bell and spend a few moments practicing together. And then we'll finish this session with a little bit of chanting. Okay, we'll pay homage to the Buddha and then do a repentance chant. Okay, we can all bring our hands together, and you're invited to join me in chanting Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. And after that, we will chant the repentance text that hopefully many of you have seen. It's pretty simple to memorize as well. I'll just post it again. Okay, here we go. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. All my ancient twisted karma from beginningless greed, hate, and delusion, born of body, speech, and mind, I now fully atone. All my ancient twisted karma from beginningless greed, hate, and delusion, born of body, speech, and mind, I now fully atone. All my ancient twisted karma from beginningless greed, hate, and delusion, born of body, speech, and mind, I now fully atone. Okay, we can all take a deep bow. Thank you all so much for joining me this morning. Hope you will be happy and peaceful and enjoy your day. And maybe see you this afternoon or this evening at 5 p.m. California time for our continued reading of Thich Nhat Hanh's book on fear. Okay? Thank you, friends. Take care.